He was the fast-talking car dealer who helped turn rusted wrecks into roaring classics. And along the way, Mike Brewer built Wheeler Dealers into a global automotive empire. But behind the charm, the deals, and the glossy garage doors, there's a story fans were never told. A sudden feud, a shocking departure, and a backlash so fierce it nearly destroyed him. Why did Edd China really walk away? What role did Mike play? And what secrets from behind the scenes have remained buried until now? This is the untold truth of Mike Brewer. From his rise as a street-smart car trader to the silent war that shattered one of TV's most iconic partnerships, and the dark fallout that nearly cost him everything. Get ready to uncover the drama, the tension, and the truth that's been hiding in plain sight. Before we dive into the video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Now let's get into the video. Before he became the face of one of the most successful car restoration shows on television, Mike Brewer was just a South London lad with petrol in his veins and a sharp tongue that could sell anything with wheels. Born on August 28, 1964, in Lambeth, London, Mike was raised around cars from day one. His father, Roger Brewer, ran a car customizing shop, and young Mike spent much of his childhood surrounded by hot rods, grease, and roaring engines. He didn't fall into the car world by accident, it was his inheritance. But where his father excelled under the hood, Mike had a different gift: salesmanship. He had the charm, the wit, and the confidence to make deals happen. That gift would carry him further than any engine could. As a teenager, he worked as a car trader, flipping second-hand vehicles and mastering the art of negotiation. He could talk cars, talk people, and more importantly, talk money. His hustle was relentless, and soon, that magnetic personality caught the attention of television producers looking for someone who could talk shop and captivate an audience at the same time. His first real break came with shows like Deals on Wheels and Pulling Power in the late 90s. Audiences loved him. He was brash, fast-talking, and knew his stuff. He wasn't just a presenter pretending to like cars. He lived and breathed the industry. But Mike Brewer wanted more. He didn't just want to be a face on TV. He wanted to build something. A show that combined his passion for the deal with the magic of car restoration. Something different. Something lasting. In 2003, that chance arrived. Partnering with Discovery Channel, Mike pitched a new concept. A show where he'd buy beat-up cars, bring in a mechanic to restore them, and then flip them for a profit. It was simple. It was honest. It was Wheeler Dealers. The only thing missing was the right partner to turn wrenches and bring these machines back to life. That partner would be Edd China, and together, they would change automotive television forever. In 2003, Wheeler Dealers hit the airwaves, and television hadn't seen anything quite like it. At a time when car shows were either about flashy races or superficial overviews, Mike Brewer introduced a different formula. He wasn't just test-driving exotic supercars. He was diving into the heart of used car culture, showing viewers how to buy, fix, and sell classics for a profit. Mike's role was clear. Find the car, spot the deal, and negotiate the price. It was a job tailor-made for him. With his Cockney charisma and razor-sharp instincts, he brought energy and accessibility to the car scene. But even he knew the show needed more than just a good dealer. It needed a mechanic who could earn the trust of viewers. Enter Edd China. Tall, quiet, and mechanically brilliant, Edd was the perfect counterbalance to Mike's high-octane personality. Where Mike was animated and quick-talking, Edd was thoughtful and technical. Their chemistry was unlikely, but it worked. It worked so well that Wheeler Dealers quickly became one of Discovery Channel's most successful shows. The early seasons focused on British classics, filmed in a small workshop in the UK. Mike would bring in tired cars, Minis, Triumphs, Fords, negotiate deals with quirky sellers, and pass them off to Edd. Edd would then take viewers through every gritty detail of the restoration, while Mike returned to close the sale. It was educational, it was entertaining, and most importantly, it felt real. There was no fake drama, no overproduced tension, just two guys fixing cars and making deals. The show struck a nerve with viewers around the world, inspiring thousands to try their own restorations. Mike was soon recognized not just as a presenter, but as a pioneer of automotive television. He brought the hustle and the human touch. Edd brought the heart and the hands. For a while, Wheeler Dealers was unstoppable. But as the show grew, so did the pressures, and the perfect formula was about to be tested in ways neither of them expected. As Wheeler Dealers gained momentum, the show's producers saw a new opportunity: America. In 2013, the production moved to the United States, and with it came access to a whole new automotive landscape. Classic muscle cars, rare imports, vintage pickups. The possibilities were endless. For Mike Brewer, this was a dream. The U.S. market was massive, and the move meant more screen time, bigger deals, and a broader audience. He embraced the change with full force, navigating the American car scene with the same confidence that had made him a star in the UK. Mike's negotiation skills flourished in the U.S. He talked down grizzled collectors, found hidden gems in dusty barns, and kept his finger on the pulse of classic car values. His personality translated well: loud, funny, and always ready for a deal. The American viewers loved him, and he loved the fast pace. But for Edd China, the move wasn't as smooth. The demands of American television production were intense. Faster turnarounds, longer hours, tighter edits. The educational step-by-step mechanical segments that Edd had once been praised for began getting cut down. Mike, ever the businessman, adapted. He saw the value in evolving the show to fit new expectations. But the more the show leaned into speed and sizzle, the more the original spirit of Wheeler Dealers began to fade. Edd was increasingly frustrated by how much technical detail was being lost on the cutting room floor. Still, the show soared. Ratings were high, the fan base was global, and Mike was enjoying newfound fame in the States. Car shows came and went, but Wheeler Dealers remained a staple of Discovery's programming. But behind the scenes, the cracks in the partnership were growing deeper. The camera kept rolling, but the tension was becoming harder to hide. It wouldn't be long before everything changed. And when it did, it would send shockwaves through the automotive world. In 2017, Edd China released a YouTube video that blindsided the fan base. He was leaving Wheeler Dealers.
Yes, I'm afraid it's true, and I'm really sorry. After 13 years of making Wheeler Dealers, I'm now going to be leaving the show.
Calm and composed, Edd explained that his departure was the result of creative differences. The network, now under the Motor Trend brand, wanted to reduce the amount of time spent on mechanical work. The very thing Edd believed was the show's backbone. Mike Brewer didn't see it coming, at least not like this. The announcement hadn't come through Discovery. There was no joint statement, just Edd, alone, telling the world why he couldn't continue. The response was immediate and brutal. Fans flooded message boards and social media demanding answers. Many pointed the finger squarely at Mike, assuming he had sided with the network or pushed Edd out. The backlash spiraled into something far darker than criticism. Mike and his family began receiving threats. Online abuse escalated to real-world fear. In interviews, Mike revealed that one fan threatened to murder him and others targeted his teenage daughter. Police were involved. The experience left deep scars. But Mike stayed professional. He expressed disappointment in how Edd chose to go public, but he never lashed out.
My social media pages will be full of people CUNT and saying bring back Edd, fuck you, and that'd be 7 years later. But, I don't care.
I respect his decision, he said, but I wish it had been handled differently. Privately, those close to the situation say Mike felt betrayed. For years, they'd built the show side by side. He believed they owed it to each other and to the fans to end things properly. But instead, he was left holding the bag, trying to steer a ship that suddenly felt half empty. The partnership that had defined a television era was over. And Mike Brewer, for the first time in his career, found himself cast not as the hero, but as the villain. In the aftermath of Edd China's departure, the dynamic that once powered Wheeler Dealers collapsed into silence. Neither Mike nor Edd publicly attacked the other, but between the lines, something was broken. Fans weren't just mourning the end of an era. They were dissecting the fallout, desperate for answers. The most burning question: what really happened between Mike and Edd? Officially, the narrative stayed polite. Mike insisted he had no part in forcing Edd out, and Edd maintained that his departure was strictly due to creative differences with the network. But those close to the production claimed things had been tense long before 2017. As the show expanded, so did the pressure. Mike, always the showman, was keen to adapt, to meet the demands of a growing audience and an evolving platform. But Edd, committed to transparency and technical depth, reportedly resisted changes that diluted the content. Producers found themselves stuck in the middle. There were whispers of disagreements over control, over time on screen, and even over direction. Some crew members said there were days when the two barely spoke between shoots. Others claimed the real clash wasn't personal. It was philosophical. Mike wanted to keep the wheels turning, even if that meant making compromises. Edd, unwilling to dilute the integrity of the mechanics, saw those compromises as deal breakers. The silent feud that followed only added fuel to the fire. The lack of reconciliation, or even a united farewell, left a void that fans filled with speculation. For some, Mike became the scapegoat, the man who let television politics destroy a legendary partnership. For others, he was a survivor, shouldering the burden of a show that needed to evolve. And through it all, neither man broke their silence to reveal the full truth. But behind the cameras, the bond that once seemed unbreakable had quietly, and perhaps irreversibly, snapped. To the outside world, Mike Brewer was still winning. Wheeler Dealers was back with a new co-host, ratings were steady, and the brand remained strong. But behind the scenes, Mike was unraveling. The abuse he received following Edd's departure wasn't just noise, it was deeply personal. When threats reached his daughter, everything changed. In interviews, Mike spoke of the emotional toll, sleepless nights, police protection, and a growing sense that the fans he once loved were now out for blood. "I became the villain overnight," he said. "I went from being the guy who made dreams happen to the guy people wanted to destroy." The show that had brought him global recognition had now brought him fear, anxiety, and a darkness he hadn't expected. Sources close to him suggest he considered stepping away entirely. The joy was gone, replaced by dread. And it wasn't just the hate. Internally, the show was shifting. Ant Anstead was now in Edd's place, and while Ant brought a new energy and mechanical knowledge, the comparisons were constant. Fans were ruthless. Every episode was scrutinized. Every smile from Mike was questioned. Behind closed doors, Mike struggled with panic attacks. Crew members noticed he was more withdrawn, less confident, more guarded. He continued smiling for the camera, but those who knew him say the experience left a mark that still hasn't fully healed. Fame had made Mike Brewer a household name, but it had also isolated him, hardened him, and dragged him through one of the most brutal public reckonings a TV presenter could face. Still, he kept going, because if there's one thing Mike Brewer has always done, it's finish the deal. After the dust settled, Wheeler Dealers had to adapt. The void left by Edd China couldn't be filled, but it had to be addressed. Enter Ant Anstead, a charming, knowledgeable former police officer and professional car builder with a background in restoration. Ant brought a new flavor to the show. He was articulate, hands-on, and approachable, someone who could explain complex mechanics with clarity. Fans were hesitant at first, but many warmed to him over time. The chemistry with Mike wasn't the same as with Edd, but it was fresh, and it kept the show moving. Mike leaned into this new format. He adjusted his energy, found new banter rhythms, and committed to rebranding the show for a modern audience. The repair segments were still there, but shorter, flashier, and more aligned with Motor Trend's faster-paced style. Then came Mark Elvis Priestley, a former F1 mechanic, as the next co-host. With Elvis, the show regained a touch of the old UK flavor. He was knowledgeable and laid back, less flashy than Ant, but more technical. Still, fans who longed for the Edd era remained vocal. Mike, for his part, embraced each change with professionalism. He became the constant, the anchor who carried the show through every transition. While the spirit of the early days had faded, Wheeler Dealers retained a core audience that kept it alive. But it was no longer the same show. It was sleeker, faster, and more entertainment-driven. Mike had reinvented the brand out of necessity, not to betray the past, but to protect the future. Yet every new episode came with the same haunting echo. It's good, but it's not Edd. And for Mike Brewer, that shadow would never fully disappear. Despite everything, fan backlash, co-host turnover, and personal torment, Mike Brewer never walked away. While others might have buckled under the weight of public criticism, he kept the Wheeler Dealer's engine running. And in doing so, he carved out a complicated but undeniable legacy. The show continued to evolve. New formats, new locations, new approaches to restorations. Mike remained at the center, smiling through interviews, showing up to car shows and signing autographs. His enthusiasm never faded, even if the warmth he once felt from fans had been chilled by betrayal. But behind the curtain, he knew things had changed. He wasn't just a car guy on TV anymore. He was a symbol of a split that still divided fans, a man both respected for building something great and resented for being the face that stayed when the one fans loved most walked away. And yet, there's something admirable in Mike's persistence. He never stopped fighting for the show, even as comments compared him to a used car salesman who lost the soul of the series. He kept grinding. Off-screen, he used his platform for more than just profit. He launched car restoration projects for veterans, supported small garages, and continued to champion classic car culture wherever he went. While others saw a tarnished legacy, Mike saw unfinished work. To him, Wheeler Dealers was never just a job. It was a mission. And no amount of hate, no co-host exit, not even the scars left by a global fan war would stop him from honoring what he helped create. Because Mike Brewer wasn't just trying to preserve a show. He was trying to preserve an identity, his own. As years passed, the question never faded. Will Mike Brewer and Edd China ever work together again? Fans have asked it in every forum, interview, and Q&A session. And while neither man has closed the door completely, the odds grow slimmer with each passing season. Mike has addressed the idea with cautious optimism. "You never know," he said. "Life's long. Maybe one day." But there's a guardedness in his tone, a hesitation that suggests wounds not fully healed. For Edd, the stance is similar, non-committal but not cold. In rare interviews, he's acknowledged the importance of what they built, but has also made it clear that his priorities now lie in independence and creative freedom. Some say pride keeps them apart. Others believe it's deeper, too much left unsaid, too much damage done. After all, their fallout wasn't just a professional split. It was personal. They weren't just co-workers. They were partners, brothers in arms in the world of grease and gears. Their rise was shared, but their fall, it was endured alone. A reunion would require more than ratings or nostalgia. It would require reconciliation. And for now, there's no sign of that happening. Still, fans cling to hope. A one-off special, a candid podcast, a shared build even for charity, something to bring closure, something to prove that two men who once made car TV magic can sit across from each other again. Not as presenters, but as friends. Until then, all we have is silence and speculation. Mike Brewer's journey is one of contradictions. He's a car dealer who became a TV star, a fan favorite who became a lightning rod, a man who helped build something brilliant, only to be blamed for watching it fall apart. And yet, he never quit. He didn't retreat from the spotlight. He didn't fire back at the hate. He kept going, one deal at a time, one episode at a time. Because for Mike, Wheeler Dealers wasn't just about cars, it was about proving that he could take a passion and turn it into something lasting. Yes, the chemistry with Edd China was special. Yes, the show changed. But Mike evolved. He adapted. He rebuilt. And that's something few in the world of television ever managed to do. His story isn't clean. It's not polished chrome and happy endings. It's scratched, bruised, and full of uncomfortable truths. But it's real. Mike Brewer is, above all else, a survivor. A man who has lived through the best and worst of fame, and who still shows up, camera ready, to do what he loves. His legacy will forever be tangled with Edd's. Their story of success, division, and unanswered questions has become legend. But Mike's chapter isn't over. Not yet. Because while others dwell on what was lost, Mike Brewer is still chasing what comes next.
And for better or worse, he's not done dealing yet.